Right, hi
Perfect.
everyone, and welcome to our event with Football v Homophobia on refereeing LGBT plus people in football. We've got a fantastic panel here today, and I'll go across the screen and introduce along through the graphic that we sent through. So Cecil is going to be our host for tonight. Cecil Jee is Arsenal Fan TV presenter and will be host for this evening. Stacey Pearson, WSL and FIFA referee. We've got Jehmeil Lemonius, who's a diversity and inclusion officer at the FA. Natalie Washington, who's campaign lead for Football Beat Transphobia, and then Lucy Clark, who's the first openly transgender football referee. Unfortunately, David Miller, my colleague, couldn't make it tonight, but we will carry on and soldier on. So thanks for all attending, and I will now hand over to Cecil to get started.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to this evening's panel discussion. It's focused, as Marcus just said, there, it's focused on referring and supporting the LGBT plus people in the game. Many thanks to all of you guys taking the time to be with us today. It'll be very educational, not just for the people watching, but also for myself, and I'm sure the referees and players here as well. It's all Surrey FA in partnership with Football versus Homophobia, and they put this event together, recognising that we need to have better support of officials in recognising and dealing with effectively with homophobia. So we've got the people in today's discussion. We've got Stacey, a referee, and Lucy, a referee, Natalie, the player, and Jay, the player. I'm going to ask you some questions. Just to get a better understanding. There's one thing actually I want to ask, which wasn't put through on my list of questions. It's something just for my own curiosity. Pronouns, something that I've actually only recently come across within the LGBT plus community, and I want to know, should players have to give pronouns to the referees before they start the game? I don't know who answers that. Is it referees or the players? I would leave it up to Natalie or Lucy or Stacey to decide what the answer is. And Jay, should the pronouns be done? Do they get done at the beginning before the games? Does that happen? Is that a thing that's set in place? You give your pronouns or not?
Who do you want to go? I'll go. I'll take the lead.
Yeah. Go on, Lucy.
Yeah, no. Hi, everyone. Lucy Clark, she, her are my pronouns. For me, no, I don't think it's something that has been done. I mean, I would say to any players that should they have particular pronouns, then to let me know, and I'm quite happy, of course, to respect that their pronouns. And it's quite a good thing to kick off with, really, because for me especially, can only talk about myself, I get misgendered, so the people using the wrong pronouns against me. I've done 199 games since my news, so as myself.
Wow, congratulations! That's
brilliant. Yeah. So but in them 199, pretty much every game I will get misgendered. Because obviously when I'm going to football, look a little bit different to if I'm going nightclubbing, and I've kind of got to accept that, because not everybody knows my story, and I don't expect them to. So there's a lot of people there that don't know me. But even match officials, I think, that I've worked with might even get up in, and whereas they'd be good with myself with the pronouns, maybe not. I know there's been occasions where they're talking to other players or management, and they will misgender me in that conversation as well. So, yeah, on the point, the original question, sorry to go off.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually only said it once. I've had a couple of bad experiences, both recently, but that has been it. And I did, after one game, I actually used it in my talk to the captains. When I introduced myself, where normally I wouldn't kind of introduce myself, I'm just the referee. I did on this actual occasion, and it was 2 under-18 teams, and I was just really, I wasn't in the mood but I wasn't prepared for that day to go badly after a previous experience. And I said in the talk to the captains, hi, I'm Lucy, my pronouns are she and her. So I've done it once myself, and perhaps it is something that I should do on more occasions, for sure.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was going to come in and quickly. So I think it'd be great for a referee, when they do their little talk beforehand and say, what they're expecting. It'd be great for a referee to introduce themselves with their pronouns, because for me, as a trans woman playing, I'd think, wow, okay, this referee knows the topic they're prepared to help create an environment that I feel really comfortable in. So I would love that. I wouldn't expect it because not everyone's aware of that. But I think it's a really lovely little ad to create a good atmosphere. And for players, I think I wouldn't expect players to all go and give their pronouns, but I think it'd be good for players to give their pronouns to the referee as well if that's relevant, because you can't necessarily always assume. I mean, the standard advice, isn't it, is if you're not sure, then ask, and I think that just applies here, really. That's the best advice.
I agree with you, Natalie. Actually, for me, if I was playing a game and the referee did that in their speech, I'd be like, at least they're allies and they're in the community, and it makes it very aware. Because I feel for you, Lucy, because being misgendered must sometimes feel not always the greatest thing. So I think it was that'd be good if they did do that in their pre-match talk. Anyone watching as well, everyone listening as well, feel free to use the comment box to get in any questions. We're gonna get into some more stuff right now. I'm gonna start with we're gonna start with
Go on.
No,
Sorry, go on.
Lucy, you go.
I'm sorry, it's me and my just tracking off. It's one of the things that Stacey and Natalie playing and involved in women's football and when I first started officiating women's football, that I noticed was when so in women's football, that they will, if a player's on, they will call man on.
Yeah. I mean, I still. I'm gonna be honest. I still do that. So
we all do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Which just for me, when I was at first going into women's football, I was kind of like, right, okay, how my brain needed to process that, how it happened and why, and how it would make me feel when I was on the pitch, because it was just when we're talking about pronouns, then there's that one that's in.
It's ingrained in football. It's ingrained in the game, isn't it? That's quite interesting. What that would. Yeah, there's probably a lot more than that. There's probably a lot more. That is definitely a key one that does get shouted out quite often, I must say. We're going to I want to quickly talk about, there's obviously been a lot of reports of homophobia, biphobia and transphobia that have been increasing alongside increase of awareness and understanding the LGBT plus identities. This event is basically designed to give the officials increased confidence with the LGBT identities. So we're going to get into some more questions. I want to quickly just ask the referees. I've got you here, Lucy. Just what is your journey in refereeing? How did it start for you? What level do you officiate at right now? And just your story. I'll be intrigued to hear from the beginning up until now.
Oh gosh, I'll be here all night. So briefly refereeing, I actually started when I was about 11, which was a long time ago, without giving my age away. And I started with Little League, and it was just running the line. So I'd play a game at Little League and then run the line on the other two. Just because of my love of football, and then when I got a little bit older, I sort of would referee the odd game, with Little League. But I played, for me, it kind of was playing was more. Whilst I loved refereeing, whilst I could playing was more important for me. So I played, and then I managed. Always done a little bit of refereeing here and there, and then probably about 15 years ago was when I started to solely concentrate on refereeing, because my knee was busted, so I couldn't play. I stopped managing at the level that I was managing at, and just decided to go back refereeing, to look at other players with the thing of getting back into management. Enjoyed refereeing so much, so I've just continued with that. And I'm currently now I'm at a level 3W, so kind of the third level of English women's football on the pyramid. So hopefully if I can progress one more, that'll be obviously getting on a little bit now. So that's where I'm at with regards to refereeing.
Amazing. Well, still it's a great level as well, and hopefully you can keep rising up that ladder. Thank you for that. I'm now going to ask Natalie, what has been your journey as a player, and what was your experience as an LGBT player? I would love to know personally. Your positive experiences, and obviously I would like to hear. I don't want to make it negative, but just maybe one story that you might felt that you're happy to speak on.
No, absolutely. And I'll keep it reasonably brief, but so obviously the level I play at is pretty low. I play in sort of the Hampshire County Women's Division 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on which of our teams I'm playing for. But so it's kind of like, I don't know what tier to call that now. I've kind of lost track of that a bit, but someone will know. But anyway, so I like a lot of people got into football as a kid. Obviously very much pre-transition. A lot of that was kind of fitting into gender stereotypes, I'll be honest. But then I kind of drifted away from the game a few years ago before I transitioned. And then it was actually, like a lot of people, the World Cup in Canada in 2015, kind of like I got my bug for football back and really wanted to get back into it. And I think if you speak to a lot of people, that was a kind of a formative moment. Certainly the numbers at the football club I play for playing kind of rocketed after that.
Yeah.
And for me, like that sort of playing football has been really intertwined with kind of like being able to feel much more part of my community and getting that sort of mental and social well-being out of being a part of a club and being around a bunch of other people. So that, at my very grassroots level, that's what football's about. I'm not going to earn any money playing it. I might win the occasional little thing, but I'm not going to be an elite player. But for me, it's about enjoying it. And I guess obviously that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how we can facilitate that.
100%. Go on, carry on, Natalie.
I was going to say, you asked me for a negative experience, so I'll give you a negative experience.
Yes.
But so the one that stands out, and I think we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later, so I'll just give an outline. But I had an away game a few years ago and basically was targeted, I guess, for being trans from the moment we kicked off. I had somebody following me around who'd obviously been told to follow me around and just kick my ankles. I was just kicking my ankles every few seconds for the first half an hour. My manager actually took me off for my own safety because I was getting targeted by flying tackles and all sorts. They were obviously trying to wind me up. They'd obviously got wind that there was a trans player on this team, and I think possibly because we had another player who was scoring an awful lot of goals at the time. They didn't know who either of us were, put 2 and 2 together, made 5, and targeted me, thinking that would stop us. Unfortunately for them, she scored a hat-trick whilst they were kicking me off the park, and we won 5-2. I did get one of them. But yeah, my manager took me off my own safety because I just got elbowed at a corner.
Wow.
I was just like, yeah, that was it. So I'm not ashamed to say they made me cry. But thankfully, that was once. That was 4 years ago. I haven't had it since.
Good.
But that does happen, unfortunately.
Experience, yes. Can I just quickly check? Is Stacey the referee? I am here. Oh, you're here. Perfect. Sorry, it's not coming up on my screen for some reason. That might be because of my layout. But Stacey, as you're in, just briefly your journey into refereeing for us as well, and what level do you officiate at as well? Would love to hear from you.
Excellent, no worries. Hi everyone, I'm Stacey. Pronouns are she and her.
There you are.
I'm here now. When you talk, it brings me forward, I think. So,
right, let me pin you on.
So I've been refereeing since 2012. I started as a player. I was playing from the age of 5. Just absolutely loved the game. Playing for Yeovil Town in the WSL2, which is now the equivalent. It's called the Championship in women's football. And I was kind of like in that weird, actually I could progress as a referee, but I still like playing. And back in 2015, that was the decision for me. I was doing too much and I had to choose. So I decided to follow the path down to referee, and I kind of haven't looked back since. I've progressed up the pyramid, and I'm now level 3 in the men's game. So I referee men's Southern League down because I'm in Bristol. And I before COVID, I was National League assistant referee as well, so I then obviously chose the refereeing route. So I now just referee, and I am a FIFA and WSL referee too. So
amazing.
Been FIFA for like the last 2 years, so don't really feel like I've got started because it's just been
COVID.
Kind of COVID. But, I've been refereeing in the WSL for 4 years now, and I absolutely love it. So.
Okay, amazing. Well, thank you for letting us know that. That's incredible. Have you? What has your experience of being as the LGBT referee? Have you had any experience in that?
No, I mean, not really, to be honest. You probably know this, but women's football is actually quite inclusive. So it's quite a safe space, especially when you compare it with men's football. So I've never, as an LGBT player, never had any discrimination because it was somewhere that I felt safe. And then, same as a referee, it's a safe space for us to referee. I've never had any discrimination from that. However, because I'm female, that's where I've had discrimination. It's from my sex as opposed to my sexuality. So
yeah, that is awful. I even sometimes, even the men's game, you hear murmurs of it when there's a female official. It's just so toxic, and it really does need to leave football. There's a lot of toxicity in football and fan culture and everything, but I don't want to be here boring you guys all day with that. We're going to stick to the topics and whatnot. Can I just quickly check as well? Is Jay here as well? My layout is terrible. Is Jay here? Player Jay?
Yeah, evening, afternoon. I'm here.
Hey, perfect. I would pin you as well. Sorry, Scott, mate. I didn't have you on my screen. I just wanted to know what is your journey has been as a player with this experience in the LGBT plus as a player.
Yeah, I guess my experiences have been probably broadly and overwhelmingly positive for the most part. I grew up in Leytonstone, East London. And I think sort of the biggest barrier that I had was, I guess, sort of coming from where I've come from, the lack of kind of role models, I guess, or what was the role models that there were. I guess the stories kind of didn't end up as positive as somebody who's potentially young, black and gay, coming from East London might want to kind of have. But yeah, I grew up in Leytonstone, East London, and football was kind of, I guess, probably the only visual representation of what success could look like for someone like me. So I gravitated towards football, and for me, it was always an outlet. It was always something to kind of, I guess, keep me out of trouble. So when I sort of, the older that I got and the more kind of, it came to kind of, I guess, making a decision about whether you're going to take football seriously. Sadly, it came at a time for me when I was, I guess, exploring my own sexual orientation. So I guess sort of the age has been 17, it was a massive.
Yeah. I don't know if you're signal, if the Wi-Fi is there. You still there? Jay, let me know if you're still there. Oh, might be the Wi-Fi. Can everyone else hear me? Everyone else still hear me? Yeah, perfect. Yep. Okay, cool. Hopefully Jay's Wi-Fi will be able to come back and we can move on. And he can carry on his story once he's back. But right, I have a question here for anyone to take. So anyone's feel free to answer this and step in and give us your thoughts. It starts with, we hear about instances of homophobia in the press and throughout reports. Kick It Out's report from the 2019-20 season showed an increase of 95% in reports of homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia, which is a shocking statistic. What other forms do these take? What other forms do these take? Oh, sorry, let me read that last bit again. What do we mean by homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and what forms do these take? Anyone feel free to take that one?
Yeah, I'll go on. Yeah. Stacey?
No, you can go, it's all right.
Oh, okay, you sure? I know.
We can share it. We can share it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Going back to what you said, I mean, it's formed. So when there's something that happens that's accidental, and for me, this is talking about transphobia, when somebody misgenders me, which was what we've said, and it happens, and I'm cool. It's kind of a bit of water off the duck's back. I know that there's no meaning or intent there. But it's when it's organised and deliberate, and I've had one experience of that where it was organised transphobia, and it was horrific. Wow. It was absolutely horrific for me. It was. And whilst some of the things that were said, other people might not it might just be, is that all they said? But for a trans person, what some of the things that were said to me on this day by people involved quite highly at a particular club. I mean, it was it's being looked into now. But for me, that was a shock for me, because football was my safe space. So football was a place that I'd go, especially refereeing. I'm going there to do my bit for the game, and it's my safe space. So for that to actually happen, and that, as I say, 199 games I've done, I've had 2 incidents. One was just absolutely horrific, and that I can't understand. And hopefully, the bodies will take the appropriate action. And because there is no need for any kind of hate, but when it's organised, that's the thing. It's when something's planned. That I can't understand, and it for it to happen, and it's happening in 2021. It's not good. It's not good.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear some of that, Lucy, there as well. Stacey, you want to say something on that as well? On that
going
question.
back to your question was what does kind of biphobia, transphobia, homophobia look like?
Yeah.
And I think the whole point of this event is to try and raise awareness of what language is used that is offensive. And I think maybe that some work could be done from the FA to send out to referees. And here are examples of transphobic language. Here's examples of biphobic language. And I'm a PE teacher, and I've also been head of year. And this year, not very long ago, I did an assembly on racism, homophobia, and just discrimination in general. And I've used examples because the children don't necessarily know that they're being racist or homophobic or transphobic. And I think that piece of work needs to be done on a bigger scale to educate people, because it sometimes that it was 85% you said. Yeah, it could be because now it's becoming
actually more, 95. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's probably because people are more aware of it now, so they're reporting it more. So not only is that maybe there's a little bit of an increase in it, but also because people are becoming more aware that more people are standing up and actually reporting that behaviour.
Yes. Do you put it down to a miseducation, Stacey, as well? Like you said,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
What it is.
Not all of it. I think some of it is people being
mean,
not very nice.
Yeah.
And then some of it is miseducation, and I see it in school. I don't see it very often on the football pitch. I think it's more grassroots than at the level that I referee at. And I think, words for, like, I don't want to offend anyone now, but things like the word faggot, that gets thrown around sometimes in men's football, but it shouldn't be. And now, as referees, we need to be aware of what words we need to be now dealing with, and actually dealing with them rather than letting them go.
Can I ask on that word as well, and get everyone's opinion on this? So, because for me, I don't like the word queer, but I know it's used in the community. But what is your feelings towards that word? That's basically it. Because I still think that's quite a derogatory term. But a lot of my friends that are in the LGBT community, they say, well, we use it, but I think it's kind of, we keep it in our community. Thoughts on that as well?
I think that's it, really. Like, I think it has to be a self-descriptor. I think it's if you call someone else queer, or you call someone else a queer or whatever, then unless you know that person is okay with it, i.e. they've used it to describe themselves before, then there's a danger it comes across as a slur. And certainly to someone else externally looking in on that could look, dangerous. People will self-describe as it. I do sometimes, but there's absolutely not a consensus on it. So it's one of those words I would say is to be used as a self-descriptor, and I don't think you could use it to label someone else without knowing that they're okay with that.
Okay, thank you for that, Natalie. Thank you for clearing up. Matt Leary in the comments section has a question for Stacey. The best women's WSL and international game you've officiated.
Oh, good question. So one of the, in terms of the highlight of my career, would be when I was assistant referee of the FA Cup final. In women's, that was women's football. That was in 2018. So that was just like an amazing atmosphere. At Wembley as well. There was like 45,000 people there. So
amazing. Who was playing?
It was Chelsea versus Arsenal.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And I was the camera side. So every time that they came towards me, you could see me. So I had like loads of screenshots of people who were watching, sent me the TV pictures, and it was a great day. And I guess my goal now would be to get to there as a referee.
Yeah, fair enough.
Internationally, my first game was last October, and that was Turkey versus Kosovo, and I had like 8 yellows and a red. It was 7 yellows and a red. It was a very memorable game. I did really enjoy it.
What's going on there? Did not get abandoned? Or...
No, because there's only one person sent off. So.
Okay.
So it was I hadn't seen anything like that before from an international perspective, but yeah, Kosovo just weren't a very nice team.
Yeah, I mean, that says it all. That does say it all. I have a question for Natalie and Jay. I don't know if Jay's Wi-Fi is back, but this is to both of you. And as a player, how do you feel referees can better deal with situations where the LGBT phobia has occurred? And how can referees support and listen to the LGBT players? Any ideas?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. I think it links to, we've just talked about this, kind of the, what does homophobia, biphobia and transphobia actually look like? Because I completely realise it can be very, very difficult for referees to navigate through this because it's complicated language, it changes. Like we've just talked about with the word queer, it's often very, very subjective.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is trying to be as educated as possible as you can be about it. So, for example, there are lots of words, and Stacey makes a great point on this, that we could do better as a game to help people, to furnish people with almost like a list of bad words, but there are words that if they're used towards somebody else in anger or in a situation where it's not like two friends bantering and that they're okay with it, that an intervention is probably necessary. Lucy's mentioned earlier subject of misgendering. That could be a situation where an intervention is probably sensible. It might be that there's been a misunderstanding. It might be that the person didn't know and they just need to be corrected, and that's fine. So I think those are situations where just maybe facilitating a quick conversation or facilitating a quick intervention can maybe head that off at source. Yeah. So, for example, the game I described where I was experiencing a lot of abuse, if we assume that it wasn't intended, they were misgendering me again from the get-go. If that referee had been able and had been confident or whatever to have a conversation and say, I know they're calling you he, this is a women's game, that seems unusual. Is that the pronouns you use, or is that wrong? I could have said, no, it's not. They could have then intervened with the opposition and said, you're using the wrong pronouns here, can you stop that? Then if they persist deliberately, then maybe I don't know if you could book someone for misgendering, but I don't know what that would fall under, but that's where referees can perhaps help. I think another thing is being aware as possible of what words could be derogatory, but also being prepared to kind of something I've heard a lot is that it's okay to use these bad words when it's not actually directed towards someone who is actually gay or is actually trans or is actually bi or whatever. Now, of course, you don't know, first of all, whether the person is being directed towards is or not, but also the people around may not even know. It may actually be that there's someone in the closet there who is a lesbian or is gay or something and doesn't want to hear these awful words being bandied around, and that's what's making them feel unsafe. That's what's making them feel that they can't be themselves in the game. So I think making sure that we're applying these rules across the board, we're applying this logic across the board, and not just in situations where you're aware there is someone there that may be affected, but actually all the time.
Okay.
So I think that's probably some easy starting points anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
I think. Yeah, sorry. As I think both of Stacey and Natalie have said there, and I think a lot about it is educating, and because there's a lot of officials that might not understand what the terminology is and what is offensive and what isn't offensive, and I think that's where we the FA or a county FA perhaps need to get something out where we can sort of say to referees, look, this is offensive, just to give them an eye and a guide, because there are a lot of people out there that are perhaps not in the community, and a lot of officials that are not in the community that don't know what's offensive, and what they think somebody is saying is okay could actually be really offensive to an LGBT person.
Do you think the FA are failing, Lucy and Stacey, in that area of just being able to offer resources to, I don't know, educate, even like the funding for even just like videos to educate players on the situation? Because until this event, even me, I was very limited knowledge of the whole community within football. So do you think the FA are failing there, or do you think it's not just the FA? There's a wider scope of people, or is it just down to the people that want to just they won't have to have a need to want to understand it? What do you think about that? It's quite a broad question.
I wouldn't say the FA are failing. I just think with anything, we can always do more to be better.
Correct.
I know the FA have an inclusion and advisory group, and there's stuff that they're doing behind the scenes that we don't even know that they're doing. And I just think maybe that moving forward, they could look to get people like us in to help create something that the referees may then be able to use. And I think maybe it's because it's not really been brought to their attention, or they might not be aware that referees maybe need this to be able to then challenge what's right and what's wrong.
Okay.
I know Stonewall have when I was doing my assembly, there was a really useful resource in Stonewall of examples of transphobia, biphobic, and homophobic language, and
yeah,
it wouldn't even be like they had to rewrite the wheel. It's just a case of looking for that information and putting it, and then sending it out to referees. Please, can you be more aware of this?
okay, perfect. I'm sure that'll definitely help. Thank you for that. Jay, I want to come to you. I know it's been a bit up and down with the Wi-Fi, the signal. We've all been there. That is the 2020 generation right now. Is dodgy signals. But Jay, come to you. Even if your camera does cut out, just want to catch up from when you left off about your experience as a player, being in the LGBT plus community, and also just that question there of as a player, like how do you better deal with situations that you've experienced as a footballer for that? So yeah, do let us know. Let's carry on. You're there.
Yeah, I'm here. Apologies, guys. Yeah, I'm actually away in Suffolk on holiday with my partner and his family. So I'm not just at risk of my internet cutting out, but also at risk of 2 3-year-old toddlers running in and screaming in German. So please bear with me.
No worries.
Hopefully the internet is reliable for at least the next 10 minutes. But yeah, I guess sort of, I don't know where I cut off from, but I guess sort of going back to my experiences, yeah, for me, I guess I always say that sort of 2 things changed my life, and that's coming out and football. And I think I spoke earlier, I don't know if you called it, about kind of, I guess, that sort of reconciliation process for me of coming of age and sort of exploring my own sexual orientation, but also, I guess, feeling like the game isn't a space for me. And that process was quite difficult, it was quite challenging. It took me a while to kind of, I guess, work through it, but ultimately that's where my
help you, Jay? So did anyone help you through that? Like, was anyone, just quickly, sorry to cut you, like a role model or someone by your side that said, no, be you and chase this? Was there? Yeah, I'd love to know that.
Sadly not, and I think that was part of the challenge. Again, like, it was the lack of role models, not just, I guess, from both sides. I guess there probably were LGBT role models, but were there LGBT role models that came from the area that I came from, who looked like me, who had similar experiences to me, who I could relate to, who are also in the game? And sadly, there was a distinct lack of role models in that facet, that I could potentially lean on and get support from. So yeah, it was a solo route. I obviously had sort of close friends and family members who kind of supported me and helped me through that. But I guess that kind of makes the journey even more so longer and challenging. But yeah, I came out the other side, and going to university was part of that kind of process. And a lot of people find themselves at university, and for me, that's when my passion for, I guess, not just diversity and inclusion, but understanding the power of football. And one of the things that triggered me was also kind of meeting other LGBT people who didn't have such positive experiences of football. Like I say, football changed my life, and I'm privileged to have been able to play the game, and I'm very fully aware of the kind of benefits and the privileges that the game has given me. And sort of my process through university and meeting other LGBT people was such full of I guess sort of annoyance at the fact that a massive community of people hadn't had some of the positive experiences that I had, which is where my passion for kind of, I guess, working in this space and kind of some of the work that I've done to this date has come from. And now I'm lucky to kind of, I guess, be able to kind of try and make an impact with also I play for Stonewall FC, who are the world's most successful LGBT football club. And I'm the first team to captain there, and I also coach, and I'm able to coach and play for Millwall Romans as well, which is an LGBT inclusive club on a Sunday. So my journey has come completely full circle, and I'm incredibly passionate about just ensuring that as many LGBT people have as much positive experience with the game that I have.
Yeah, amazing. Jay, thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, amazing. That was exactly what I wanted. We have someone with their hand up. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just have to just flick through the chat. Ray Lewis has his hand up. I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, go on, Ray. Jump in.
Just a question. I'll give the past. I was a FIFA referee a while ago as well, but I noticed that within the change of the laws of the game for this coming season, we have this non-violent, inappropriate behaviour where offensive, insulting or abusive actions will result in a sending off.
Okay.
Do you think that will happen?
Oh, I mean, Stacey, at least you're the best. We've got the best people in the building to answer that question. So I'll hand over to one of you two. Do you think that will happen?
I think if you look at the laws of the game, that's kind of always being in there in terms of insulting, offensive, abusive language.
Yeah.
But I think if I'm completely honest, it will just depend on the tolerance level of the referee, and what they won't accept. For example, if I hear certain language in a game and I know that it needs to be dealt with, I will deal with it. But someone that's not as confident or as educated in terms of what that language means may not deal with it in the same way as I will. Like, I guess anything, it could come down to opinion. But yeah, I think it gives people a bit more ammo to be able to deal with that.
Lucy, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, no, it just gives a bit more scope, I suppose, for match officials to take action on something that might not be completely and utterly obvious to somebody else, if you like. So I think it's a good thing because there, as I say, there are it doesn't where something doesn't, there doesn't have to be swearing for something to be offensive. Some people think because they haven't sworn at you that it's fine that they can say X, Y, Z. So I just think it's certainly with the actions as well, just gives the officials a bit more scope to keep control and to try and stop these discriminatory acts.
Yeah, and Ray, just quickly on that as well. I've been a player at many different levels, very high level and I suppose very low. But my experiences of referees that have been amazing are the ones that kind of speak with you before the game and say, these are my non-negotiables. So if you swear directly at me, you're getting red carded, and that is when it comes to that, or you're getting booked, whatever. If it's directed at me, you're getting booked. That's my non-negotiable. That sets the pace and the tone for the game. No one then normally does it, and I've seen them say, "Oh, F off, ref," and then or they'll say, "Oh, F off," and the ref will be like, "Right, I told you at the beginning. Here's a yellow card. Here's a red card," and they'll be like, "I wasn't doing it to you. I wasn't saying it to you. I was saying it to my other." No, this is my non-negotiable. That's what I've said at the beginning. And same with like if it's discriminated saying or word, that's their non-negotiables. So that is what I think going forward will be good. I'm glad that is in the rule book. I mean, like you said as well, Stacey, it's been in there I think for a while anyway, but cracking down on it will make it, I guess, a better game for everyone, in my opinion. I see Jay's got his hand up. Jay, jump in. Are you there?
Cheers. Yeah. I guess I think that's a really good point, particularly about sort of referees kind of, I guess, setting the tone and the marker down early doors, and I think that's really important, particularly in not just, I guess, controlling and managing games, but also in being able to kind of control environments and ensuring that they're safe and inclusive to an extent. And I know we've spoken a lot about sort of terminology and stuff like that, which I do think is important, but ultimately what I think is quite even more so important is that if you think about sort of grassroots, and sometimes you're turning up on a Sunday afternoon and you've got one referee, no linos, and you've got to have the opposition's player for linos. It's impossible for a referee to I guess listen and hear every single thing that's said. So we can talk about language and terminology until the cows come home, but some cases that it's impossible for a referee to even hear any abuse. So from my experience, particularly with Stonewall FC, when we've played in sort of Middlesex Prem Division, we've had experiences where we've had incidences, but the really positive outcome ones are when the referee probably hasn't heard it, but he's still dealt with it in an effective manner. And we've been lucky enough to kind of be associated with the Middlesex County League for a number of years now. So they understand our ethos, they understand kind of what the brand of our club is. So they support us with whenever any incidents arises, and referees do the same. So they're, even if they don't hear it, they're happy to kind of listen to exactly whoever experienced the abuse, hear them out. and then report it and process it in an effective manner. And I think that's more important sometimes than, I guess, he said, she said, because ultimately what's important is that whoever experiences abuse is listened to. We validate their experience and ensure that they're supported before, during, and after any of those incidences, particularly at a grassroots level when it's so challenging for referees in the first place. But what you don't have to do is be an expert and being able to kind of hear everything that's happening, particularly around terminology, but being able to kind of support someone and being able to kind of ensure that somebody feels validated after they've experienced that is just as important, particularly in the long run, I think.
Yeah, agreed. Listen, Jay, thank you. I just got shivers to listen to you guys speak. Honestly, we still got 15 minutes left, but again, I'm not just alone here. Jeff has said it's an honor to be part of this conversation from Nigeria. The conversation here with regard to the LGBT is not much of an issue. I can't see the bottom line because, let me see if I can copy it and paste it, because it's got at the bottom of my screen, it's getting filled by something. Here in Nigeria, however, I can't get the whole text for some reason. But thank you so much, Jeff, for your message, and I agree. So it's an amazing conversation to be a part of. I wish there was loads. I wish this was just open. It was open to everyone, but I wish there was so many more people involved and listening in. I'm going to come to you, Natalie, next. Because I haven't heard from you for a little while. As a player, how do you feel the referees can better deal with situations where the LGBT phobia has occurred, and how can referees support and listen to LGBT players? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, not actually loads to add to what's already been said. I think actually what Jay just said there was a really, really great point, is that, yeah, like, of course, you're not going to hear some of this stuff that goes on. And of course, if people are doing it nefariously, they're doing it in situations where you're not going to hear, so that person that I talked about before that was following me around the pitch, kicking my ankles and saying things to me, she was doing it when the referee was over the other side. The referees has no chance of saying that, and the assistant on that side, i.e. one of their subs, wasn't going to tell him. So exactly. So I think what Jay's just outlined is really, really important. We didn't report that incident, and the reason we didn't report that incident is because it was an away game, and we basically thought nobody would back us up. We thought it would just be a case of, well, they said it didn't happen, and the referee didn't see any of it, so you can't do anything. So I think in that situation, some support from, it got mentioned to the referee, but for whatever reason, and I think there are some reasons which are legitimate, he didn't feel able to do anything about it or to support that. But if I think he'd approached it in the way that Jay just outlined, saying, look, I didn't hear it, so therefore I can't do anything with it now, but I hear you and I believe you, and I'll support you in doing something about it afterwards or whatever. I don't know what the procedure is for that.
Yeah.
But I think being sensitive to that kind of situation arising is important. I think there's another piece, and I suspect we'll probably talk about it later, but I want to touch on it now is a little bit, which I think probably is more of a T than an LGBT thing, but it's around unconscious bias.
That's the yeah, but go on.
Yeah, so I'm just going to hint at it, let it little bit of a taster for people for later. But I faced some situations where I think there's been some unconscious bias that's crept in, where because of my body being, and I'm not massive, but my body being a bit larger, and in fact, there's a lot of cisgender, which is not trans, women that I play against who are bigger than me. But there's been situations where I've definitely felt that were I not trans, I would have got a free kick, or I wouldn't have conceded a free kick, or that, to use a very, very simple example, because of perceptions that people may have at the back of their minds about what trans women are like. And of course, if they've read any newspapers, they've probably been explicitly told that that's what trans women are like. And I think sometimes that creeps in, but just to maybe get people thinking about it. We'll come back to that later. Yeah, I think we've discussed some really good stuff about that.
No worries, we are going to follow on to that actually, and it was for you and Lucy to speak about. I will quickly sorry, I'm going to go back to that Jeff comment, because I've actually I copied and pasted the whole comment now so I can see it. Jeff said in the comments, it's an honor to be part of this conversation from Nigeria. The conversation here with regard to LGBT is not much of an issue here in Nigeria. However, I have to go with Stacey on that. It has to do with the tolerance level of the ref. The laws of the game does not discriminate or accommodate discriminating behavior. Thank you. I hope so. Big up Jeff for that, and also everyone else listening and watching. Do what you've seen before. Put your hand up if you want to ask a question, or you can put in the comments section and I will read it out. We're going to move on to the unconscious bias. You did touch on it, and I definitely want to delve into it a bit more. So let's go into it. I'm going to ask you the question here for Lucy and Natalie, but we'll start with you, Natalie. And as a trans person in football, how do unconscious bias affect you, and what do referees need to consider around trans and non-binary people in the game?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a subject that's quite close to my heart because I do a lot of unconscious bias training in the workplace as well. And I think it's a really important topic. So just for anyone that's not kind of,
where does the bias come from as well? I'd love to know that as well. Do you think, like you said, the media, you did touch on it. We're going to just delve into it. Sorry, I'm getting...
No, that's all right. No, you're right. Thank you for asking, because I was going to start by maybe defining a little bit about what we're talking about, because it's not necessarily easy. So unconscious bias is basically referring to the idea that we all go through the world by understanding sort of things that we maybe don't think about. So for example, little example as to how the brain works, I guess, is, if you're walking along a street at night and it's all quiet and you see just something move in a bush or something, you'll notice that, you'll be drawn to it because it's outside the kind of the standard realm of what you're expecting to see. So our brains are basically kind of hardwired, I guess. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but to pick out anything that we see as slightly different and to maybe see that as opportunity or danger or whatever, right? And that's the really basic level that we're looking at it, and that can be a little bit problematic as a term, but you see what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So unconscious bias in this context is we're really talking about the typical kind of ways that we perceive other people playing out in the behaviors that we're engaging in. So for example, what I'm talking about me is people tend to believe that trans women is someone like me, so who was assigned male at birth and has a gender identity as a woman. There's a perception that people like me and that trans women are kind of these brutish hulks that go around invading women's spaces to, because we think that we can win more easily in the case of sport or whatever, right? And there's been a lot of discourse in the media about that. Now, whether you believe that or not, that inevitably makes its way into your psyche and makes you think about it, and it affects the decisions that you make, and it affects the decisions that I make. I have these biases as well as everyone else. Everyone has unconscious bias. It's kind of unavoidable. So all we can really try to do is bring it to the surface and make sure that we're not unfairly treating people as a result, and try to work that through and overcome it. So for example, the example I gave was, if I go up for a header with someone who's smaller than me, the chances are I've found, well, the chances are that's unfair, but often I find that I'll concede a free kick, or if they push me in the back, I won't get a free kick because I'm big and strong, and therefore I shouldn't be going down anyway. And that sometimes I think creeps into decision making. And I think that we can talk about this actually for a whole range of identities and a whole range of body types in the game or whatever. And I don't know if referees get training on this, but I think it's a really interesting thing to think about, is how you can apply that for your thinking across decision making as a whole, not just talking about LGBT people or not just talking about trans people, but actually how does that creep in more generally. So that's my piece.
Okay, no, thank you. That's perfect. Lucy, has there been any unconscious bias that you've witnessed at all, or like Natalie said, is there training on it that you try and relearn stuff?
Do you know what? I mean, I know, so, as I say, Natalie says everyone has it, but when we've all those that have refereed the games, and it's my age. A player might want to use his age as an excuse, or their weight. Oh, I'm too fat. I'm too slow. That's why. So I would like to think that if I was refereeing Natalie, for example, I would only give a foul against Natalie if she fouled someone, and regardless, okay. So for me, I don't, size in the laws of the game for me as an official, they don't mention somebody's size. If a smaller person pushes a bigger person, that you don't give them a foul. So I'd like to think that it's not there. Possibly, It could be. If I was refereeing Arsenal, I might try and give them a hand or two, because they need it. Season ticket. Oh, yeah, I know. So yeah, no, I'd like to think that I haven't got it. Strap me up to a machine and say that I've never given a decision and there's been that unconscious bias, and I don't know what the results would be. But yeah, I personally like to think that it wouldn't matter to me. Yeah. But
fair. Yeah. No, thank you for that. I'm going to quickly come to Stacey. What are some top tips and best practices of how to de-escalate situations for an LGBT phobia incidents? Is there tips that you've come up with yourself or that you've been taught?
I think it is any situation that occurs. So in terms of how I would deal with something is the same as how I would deal with a racist incident. So if I hear it myself, then I have no tolerance. I'll be like, red card, not even have a discussion about it. Yeah, unless it's after the game and me explaining why what they've said is not appropriate, I would be more than happy to do that. But whether that's because I'm a teacher and I feel like that has helped me as a referee, because I feel like every situation is almost a teaching moment. And I think that's probably why I can de-escalate things on a football field, because that's what I do every day. I deal with behavior management. Effectively, they're all 22 children in front of me. That's what I'm doing, and negative reinforcement, isn't it? Whether I give them a free kick or not, managing players, and I think that they're human beings at the end of the day. So if somebody comes to you after the game and they report it to you, then you would have no choice but to then write a report on the same way you would for a racist incident. And I think that maybe needs to be communicated more to referees as well, that please can you deal with the same level of discrimination, I guess, or tolerance as you would a racist incident, because there's lots and lots of information to referees about how to deal with racist incidents, and I think maybe we need to get more information on how we can deal with those transphobic and homophobic incidences too. And essentially, we're not doing anything different. We'd get a report from the person that's been discriminated against, and then make sure you're writing everything down and then report it to the relevant people in the same way. And I guess my tip would be to any referee here would be just to do your own research. We're always looking at ways on how we can improve ourselves as officials and as people. So do your own research. What if you don't know what kind of language you should be listening out for, then go and find out. It's all there, it's all the internet. So that would be my tip, to have a look at what's out there. What can you use in your game? And then when you're out there, just show a bit of empathy. So if somebody says to you, so Natalie, for example, if you'd come to me and said, look, referee, somebody's actually targeting me because I'm a trans person, please can you keep an eye on it? The first thing I would have been doing was keeping an eye on that and then dealing with it effectively. If I'd be looking out for it. It's the same as if someone comes to me and says, oh, can you protect our number 9? Somebody, like, they target them just to be the better player than everybody else. I would do the same. I would manage the same situation. Look, I'd show a bit of empathy. I'm sorry that you're having to experience that. I will have a look for it, and if I see it, I will deal with it. And then I would be on high alert to try and deal with it. Yeah,
that's amazing, because I when I'm in game, I don't know about you, Natalie and Jay, I would never think to say that, because you don't want to come across as like, I don't know, maybe an annoyance, I think. I don't know, maybe not, but you're right. It's good to ask the referees, like, keep an eye on this. Would you, Natalie and Jay, have you ever done that, or would you do that in a game? So, like, listen, I'm being targeted, because I've never done that, even though I have felt targeted many a times, one for being black, or one for being at AFTV, which sounds crazy, or one for being an ex-player professionally. People do target me when I play lower down the leagues, but I've never said anything to the ref about it. I don't know if you've got any experiences of you speaking to the ref and it coming off and working for you both.
Yeah, no, I have done that, and I'm pleased to say, the experience is kind of been that, really. Pleasingly, in a lot of those situations, kind of that probably doing that alone has stopped it. Actually, I haven't had it many times with transphobic abuse, and I'm really pleased to say I've had very little of that from opposition teams. But I remember an incident actually when I was playing men's Sunday league before I transitioned, where we had a player who was targeted because of their race, and we pointed it out to the referee and said, can you look for that? The referee looked for it, saw it, and sent somebody off.
Amazing.
So really pleased to that worked well. So yeah, I'd definitely say when referees do that, it lands really well with players, and I really appreciate it. I hope.
I'm gonna start doing it as well.
Often as a referee, you're so focused on the game in hand, you don't hear everything. You just like kind of, there's the ball, where should I be? There's so much to think about. You don't always consider that actually there's a little someone saying something over there that's discrimination. So if it's brought to my attention, then I can right, I'm going to actually try and witness it myself so I can deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, amazing. Jay, what about you? Have you ever done that in a game and highlighted it to a ref?
Yeah, actually, it's similar to Natalie's situation. Yeah, we managed to get, well, it's a positive thing, but one of the only incidences that I've experienced, particularly through overt homophobia on the pitch, was happened to a teammate of mine, and a player had been giving it all game pretty much. So we've been having words with referee throughout the game and at half time. And yeah, in the second half, we were beating the team. I think we were 3-0 up at the time. And then the referee, he didn't hear exactly what the player said, but he saw kind of, I guess, the player kind of saying something, and then was able to, then the player kind of hit out or whatever, and actually sent the player off violent conduct. So yeah, I'm not sure the referee would have been able to kind of be in a position to do that if we hadn't brought it to his attention. And like I say, because of the relationship that we've got with the not just with referees in our league, but the county FA in general, we were able to, I guess, process it efficiently, and I guess, yeah, the player in question was able to kind of get an apology actually after at the end of the match, which was a good result, and we were able to kind of deal with it in a sensitive and effective way, which was great.
Perfect. Thank you, Jay, for sharing that. Now we're coming towards the end. It's gone quite quick. I can't believe it. Thank you so much, everyone that's spoken and educated us, and everyone listening. But I want to end with a final question. I want to hear from all of us, all the speakers here that we have today. It is, how can referees be better allies for the LGBTQ plus people? Obviously, the referees can say, just again, what do you think will obviously help you as well from your side, and then the players from your side, just to wrap up anything that you want to basically say, kind of our closing thoughts on this evening of conversation. Let's start in my top left. I have Stacey. Can I start with you, Stacey? Then go to Lucy, yeah. And then perfect.
So for me, I think being an ally, just showing that you support and you're willing to do the research, and you're a visible ally. So we've got the power of social media now. So if you see something happening on social media that's positive, retweet it, or make a comment on it, to show that other people in the LGBT community that, oh, actually there's a safe person that I can talk to about this. Especially when you think about how difficult some situations could be. Do research. If you don't know, then ask. If you're unsure of something, then ask somebody. There's plenty of people you can ask. I'm always happy to answer any questions. If you're not sure on something, ask somebody. And then just, I guess, be there to support that person if they need it back in return.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Stacey. Lucy, I want to come to you next.
I lost you there, but yeah, as pretty much as Stacey said, be an ally, call it out. A referee on a football pitch, take action if they hear it, that's for sure. If it gets reported to you from a player, listen out for it and take action should you hear anything. And if it gets reported to you by a fellow match official, then definitely take action. That's important. So yeah, just take action if you hear it, and just be a good ally, support it, and call it out. That's the thing. The more we call it out, the more we stop this discriminate and horrible things that we've still got in our world, unfortunately.
Thank you. Perfect, Lucy. And then come down to you, Jay, below. How to be better ally, how the rest can be better allies to the LGBTQ plus. Are you there? He's there. I know he's there.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's just kind of I guess it's just being consistent, and I think so we talk about being allies and what that looks like, and I think it's heavily in line in terms of what a referee's ethics and ethos and roles and responsibilities are in general, so that those messages around kind of professionalism, fairness, respect, impartiality, even just working with different people and teams on a weekly basis, and being representative of a football community. I think those are kind of the ethos and values that referees should, that are built into kind of embody anyway. And those chime directly in line with what being an ally is in general. So again, like any profession, the more work that you do outside of it to understand the communities that you're going to be working with on a weekly basis, the better that you're going to be equipped to be able to kind of do your job at the weekend. So even if there are communities that you might not understand or you might not relate to, listen, learn, and kind of engage with them, so you're able to kind of, I guess, create an environment that makes your job easier and makes their experience of football even better also.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Jay. And then lastly, Natalie.
Yeah, I mean, big plus one to everything that's already been said. Some really great points there. I think we touched on it at the beginning. Probably a little thing that can be done to signal that you're an ally is to do those little things, like it could be introducing yourself with your pronouns, or it could be, when you're doing that pre-match chat, to say, look, rather than say I'm not going to tolerate anything, anything being said that's derogatory or something, actually being explicit and say I'm not going to tolerate racism, I'm not going to tolerate homophobia, I'm not going to tolerate transphobia, and calling those things out specifically so that people know that you've seen that is a thing that may happen, obvious though it may sound. So those are little things that you can find. And I think Stacey makes a good point about kind of educating yourself and participating in sort of knowledge gaining or whatever around characteristics or whatever to help kind of further your understanding of a minority group or whatever, and what they may face in terms of discriminatory language or whatever. So I think all of those are important. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. Thank you for that as well. Listen, Stacey, Lucy, Natalie, and Jay, it's been an amazing pleasure to speak with all of you, and thank you so much. And everyone listening and joined, thank you as well. Like Stacey said, contact them. If you contact the people here, if you need help or advice or understanding, contact them. I'm surely going to keep in touch, and I'll be contacting you for some advice, maybe some games being refereed if possible. We'll do all that as well. But I just want to again say thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's been amazing. Hopefully there'll be more of these in the future, because they are very much needed to get a brighter future. It'd be great to have these continue. So thank you very much. I'm going to end it here. Thanks everyone for joining.